Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our September webinar titled Embracing Recovery Month Together, a Toolkit for Community Organizations. My name is Jayla Head, and I'm a program coordinator here at Shatterproof, and I'm very excited to be here today. So, going over some general housekeeping points, this webinar will be recorded and a copy of the presentation will be available on the Georgia Recovers website. All attendees will be muted. Also, please use the Q&A panel on the bottom of your screen to ask any questions. The chat is also available for any general commentary, but it will not be moderated as closely. The interpreter will remain spotlighted throughout the webinar in order to adjust your view and see all panelists or speakers. Click view in the top right corner of your screen and then select speaker or gallery. You all can also select a side-by-side view as well. Also, we do have captioning services available. So if you are interested in viewing a full transcript, please visit the chat. She's dropped a string text link in order for you to go ahead and access that. So our agenda includes a welcome and housekeeping, Georgia Recovers overview, our presentation. We'll wrap up with the Q&A portion and then our closing remarks. So on to the Georgia Recovers campaign overview. So Georgia Recovers is an evidence-based public health campaign aimed to reduce the prejudice and discrimination that is associated with substance use disorder in Georgia. The campaign is powered by DBHDD as well as building off the pivotal work of Georgia Council for Recovery. We do have a few goals and objectives, including increasing knowledge about substance use disorder and that recovery is not only possible, but probable. Improving attitudes towards those living with and or in recovery from substance use disorder, and also strengthening the capacity of stakeholders, organizations, and individuals that are already responding to this crisis. So we do have 3 pillars of work, including community connection, story sharing, and also education. So including community connection really involves connecting with different community organizations. And this is also done through our advisory board, which is called the Community Impact Committee, which guides the direction of the campaign. Story sharing is also the bread and butter of the Georgia Recovers campaign. So we collect stories of people that are in recovery and also allies. These stories are shared across all of our social media channels. And then last but not least, education. So the campaign changes attitudes by promoting messaging that speaks to hope and recovery. We also host these monthly webinars that really shed light on topics related to substance use disorder. Also, please share your story with Georgia Recovers. Again, our campaign is rooted in the power of storytelling. And so when we're able to leverage these lived experiences of people in recovery and also their friends, families, allies, we can really change the narrative on addiction. And so Leslie will also drop the link for our story sharing interest form in the chat if you're interested. And connect with us on social media. So here you have our Georgia Recovers Instagram handle, as well as our Facebook page. And if you're interested in becoming an official campaign partner, please complete the community partner form. Accessibility. And on to our awesome speaker. So Catherine Tootle is a woman in long-term recovery. What that means is that it's been 6.5 years since she's used any illicit substances to cope with her life. Catherine speaks up for recovery because it is her belief that we can regain custody of our children and create a beautiful life as a family, because that is her experience. Catherine Tootle is the Executive Director of Freedom Through Recovery, RCO, located in Statesboro, Georgia. Catherine is also a certified addiction recovery empowerment specialist, where she advocates for peer self-directed care. In 2022, Freedom Through Recovery was voted RCO of the Year by peers across the state. Catherine is also a recipient of the Karen Daniel Spirit of Cares Award. Because of her recovery, she was named an Everyday Hero of Bullock County in 2020 and was highlighted as a recipient of the 20 Under 40 Award for Statesboro Community Leaders in 2021. So again, thank you so much for joining us, Catherine, and I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Jayla. Y'all, I'm so excited and I'm so nervous. So bear with me. This is the first time I've ever been asked to do a webinar, and I'm super grateful, super honored. Thank you to Shatterproof for all the work that you're doing. I love looking at the little snippets that come out on social media and the way you word things. And thank you to our interpreters and the captioner for doing what you do. It does not go unnoticed. Like she said, one thing has changed. I just celebrated 7 years. So we made it to 7, and I'm really grateful for my recovery today. Because of it, I get to do things like this with people that I love, which is the recovery community and anyone who supports us in our community. So today we are really just going to be talking about my experience as a director of an RCO, and we're calling it the Recovery Month Toolkit for Community Organizations. We can go to the next slide. This is my why. For those of y'all that know George, he does a why slide, and I love it, and I wanted to make one for my own. And first and foremost, this is my salvation in Jesus. This is my personal recovery, and he's a lot of the reason why I do what I do. My family restoration, this is a big old picture of my family when they surprised me on my 40th birthday, which just happened. I went into the decade of the 40s, and I'm claiming it's going to be my best one yet. This is, in that family restoration, there's my mom and my sister who are both in recovery. You know, I believe that just like addiction is kind of contagious, so is recovery. And my family is proof, and that's why I believe it as hard as I do. In the middle, that was after my 40th birthday. I got some face masks from one of my teammates, and Clint and Marley did a face mask with me, and that's what our family looks like at home. Just doing some old wild, crazy stuff, but doing it together and loving on each other. And then my next part of my little world, and that is my kitty cat. I love cats so much. I love animals so much, but you know, because of recovery, I can actually take care of the animals that I have. They're not a burden on other people. I make my own money to feed my own animals, and I take them to the vet like they're supposed to go. And those little small miracles in my life, they're like little small miracles. So we have Marshall laid out on the chair. Seamus is the big old one's cat. Emma is the one on the ledge up there looking down on us commoners. And this is our new work cat, Lotus, the white and gray cat. Next slide. So we were going to go over 3 different things, and you know, it's about really creating community buy-in, but you know, we really can't talk about that yet until we kind of break it down for us in our organization. And I know for us, each of our teammates, we need to know like what our supportive environment looks like. Well, we really need to be able to identify what that looks like, because if we can't, it's going to be really hard to kind of recreate it in a safe place as an organization for people that are coming in who really need help navigating. So if we don't know how to navigate it ourselves, we're really not going to be able to help other people navigate. And and all these slides, I've just put kind of examples of my own life and our organization. And so we break it down into 3 different ones, and the fostering supportive environment. I put my own, and then we're going to move up to the organization as a whole and then to the community. So some of mine, this is some of my supportive environment, and it is, I've already told y'all, my faith. You know, I used to just say my faith because I was kind of scared to talk about Jesus in recovery, but I got over that a couple years ago, and I'm real grateful that I can say the same now. So it's my faith in Jesus, and sponsorship. I am at work. Sorry about that. Number 2 is sponsorship. I worked at Al-Anon in the AA program, and you know that was my first pathway, one of my first pathways to recovery. And I have to stay plugged in there to keep it simple, you know, and to keep it back to the bases also. My mental health medication. I have a prayer partner that we pray during the work week, and I've recently been reading my Bible. I do a lot of service work, and it's really about finding balance with service work, right? But I serve on some boards, and I just started helping the 4-year-olds at our church. And my cat, good for my mental health. And a big one for me is like preventative measures, and that is hope. You know, we learned that a lot of times in treatment. That's where I learned it. And it is, you know, really paying attention if we are getting hungry, which for me leads to hangry instead of angry, and lonely and being tired. And it is very important that I am finding balance in my life to combat those, because I'm not really good at making decisions when I'm getting on those. And then that also kind of entails giving my best yes. That is, if I cannot commit to something wholeheartedly, then the answer is no for the moment, you know, or let me get back to you. And then one that I've really embraced in the last 2 years has been mentorship, and that is through some organizations in the RCO network. And because of that, I mentor some organizations also, because just like in recovery, you know, we gotta give it away, just like it's been given to us. Next slide. All right, so this is about common challenges that we have faced with our RCO, and really kind of how to overcome those, how we have overcome those in ours. And it is my hope that something will resonate with someone, and because I also feel like we do a lot of this work and don't realize we're doing it until someone points it out. That has been my experience. So by just putting a voice to our experience, I hope that it can make some connections for anyone else who's watching this. So number 1, it is so crucial. It is so crucial. And I love that we do this in CARES with our certification. You know, it is imperative that we find our staff or teammates' passion. I know we are much better here at our job at Freedom Through Recovery because we're working in our passion. And sometimes it takes a minute for someone to really figure out what that is, and like just be patient or ask questions. A lot of times, some of our people can't name their passions, but if you talk to them long enough, it'll kind of come out, and we can feel when they're talking about it, right? So my teammate, Julia, her history is art administration. She loves the art community. And that is one piece that we were missing here at Freedom Through Recovery. She came with that experience, and to watch it unfold, it didn't unfold at first. It came later when she started talking about her history in art administration. And because she volunteered at our art center here in town, it was something that just came up on her heart that she really wanted to do. And so as a director, I'm like, absolutely, we need to do this. We need to go ahead and move on the passion while it's here. And man, since then we have We've done a lot of art classes, a lot of art education. Right now we're building a art program for our peers' children and for the peers to do like together but separately in their own little group. And all of that was kind of birthed out of her passion. And now parents are going to be able to like take that lived experience and that art education and take it back home with them to be able to do it at their home too. I mean, so there's so many wonderful things that come from knowing people's passions. And it kind of tells me where I need to navigate them in the community, you know, and who is already working with the Averett Center and how can we plug in there. Sydney is my other teammate, and she will tell you, if she was right here, she has had so much death in her family, and her passion is to help other people heal from grief as she's doing it. It took her a couple years before she started the grief meeting, just because of her own fears of like digging into that. And I've watched her start that this year, and I've watched her do hard things through it. And because our peers get to watch her do that, it makes it easier for them to do that. So it's brought just that one meeting in the week has brought so much healing to community members who just have lost someone, not out of a tragedy, but just like on their way out. And then, of course, people who died from overdose. And recently we've had a father in town who lost his teenage daughter in a careless gun accident. Like, it was so careless. And as he's having to walk through that in court, which is so drug out, he comes here and he goes to this meeting. He rocks on our front porch. Once again, there's so many things that spin off just that one piece from Sydney looking at her own grief. And the next part of hers is physical fun. And she is a beast when it comes to projects about how to have fun in recovery. She's a very physical person, and we just had our recovery field day. It went well. There's rock climbing and high rope course. She literally does a field day. So that is why it's important to find our passions. You know, mine's family restoration, and that comes from coming in with a DFACS case. So of course my heart now is helping other women, and sometimes dads come in with their own DFACS case, and I get to use my lived experience through there and advocate for them. And that's just opened up a lot of doors too. And like I said earlier, mentorship. You know, there's a few different RCOs in Georgia who has taken the time out to have conversations with me, and I will always treasure that. And so I want to, what I feel for them, like I want to be for the next organization coming up and who needs help. I'm available. Y'all can always reach out. The second one is policy, Joe. So as RCOs, you know, it's kind of a new thing throughout Georgia, and, you know, we need to create policies for safety and codes of conduct for peers and staff, like not just new people walking through our doors. Like, we got to know how to follow a code of conduct if we want other people to follow that, right? So through a mentorship opportunity, we found out about HR training, and they found out about it through another organization. And so it's kind of trickled down to us, and now we're looking to send our teammate Julia through HR training, because, you know, when we open up as RCOs, we're given like the service definition, we're given our contract, and it's really up to us to learn how to create policies. And there's usually someone already doing it, so just taking a time out to spend time with them and not reinvent the wheel is crucial in being efficient, right? So that's some things. We have recently implemented PCOM, which is Partners for Change Outcomes Management Systems, and that is with George Fraught, and it allows for the peers to really have their own voice, because when we see a lot of people they're usually in treatment or accountable to maybe probation or something, and their voice is not really getting heard. They're getting a lot of things of what they should be doing, but no one's listening. So it allows for the peers to measure their success and what they need to work on. It also evaluates the relationship between us as Freedom Through Recovery, the coaches, and the peers. So they get to make those lines on the chart. It is not us holding paperwork. They have the control, and they really feel it's important that our peers feel heard, understood, and respected. And what better way than to let them measure their own success? This is a huge one for us. We have went to 4-day work weeks. FTR has intentionally slowed down, allowing staff to feel valued and empowered. FTR is still open 5 days a week, and we stagger our days. You know, I went back and I do not want us to burn out in this work because it can be easy. And, you know, the everyday hustle and bustle is be on your grind, give yourself away, really. And we're not doing that at FTR anymore. We are going to take care of ourselves so we can be in this for the long haul. And what it does is it gives us, because this is never a 9-to-5 job. People are always calling in the evenings, on the weekends, and all that really needs to be taken into account when we're figuring out our hours and not just giving ourselves away so much. There is so much structure that can be brought in that really feel that our staff really feels valued when we give them room to breathe. And when we create like a culture where our family is important and how we pour into our family is important also. And give affirmations to the team for all the little tiny things, like not just big things or something. Like we want, like when Sydney created the grief meeting and she was just reading over what she wanted it to look like. Like she hadn't got to starting it yet, but like me really telling her like how proud I am that she even took the book out that day, that she's reading something. It's important that our staff feel seen. It's important that they feel heard, understood, and respected too, right? Not just our peers. We have to create that culture in the workplace if they are going to give that to our peers. And we have yet to schedule a retreat, but our board has approved it. We just got to find the place we're going. If anybody has any suggestions, I would love to hear it. That is something that I want us to do as a team just so we can get to know each other better. Next slide. All right, so now we're on to building collaborative relationships, and this is in the community too, right? So the first one is super important. It's the first thing that came up to my mind, and it is we have to show up for other organizations if we want them to show up for us. That's just bottom line. We cannot expect for people to show up for us to events, to mentor us, to in-kind donations, like anything. We can't expect that from people if we can't give it. So with that in mind, there's a few different boards in town that I sit on, because most of these boards, just for example, the Camilla Foundation, that is counseling for youth, mental health counseling, and that directly comes from the need for it in Bullitt County with the rates of suicide in our young people. And that is like the best way for us in recovery, in my mind, to make amends to the world is by pouring into our little people or making it easier for them with their mental health. And that's a board I sit on, and because of that, now our parents that we serve have an outlet for their children that they can also use. And it just expands the territory a little bit. And so there's some other boards in town that I sit on who are nonprofits. They're all nonprofits, and they all just have a heart for serving. And so I show up for them, they show up for us. We sponsor events throughout the community. I trust that God brought the money to us, and we're going to use it. And I trust that He will bring more as long as we are doing the right thing and stewarding our money well. So that is a huge deal for nonprofits in town, is to have a sponsor event. We participate in the Chamber of Commerce. We go to business after hours. We do with the Downtown Development Authority. We do all First Fridays, which is where we go set up a booth downtown by the courthouse. The community goes out and has a good time. They get to learn about our services. We get to learn about other people. It's a lot about us networking too, right? So we show up for those things, and it kind of goes back to passion too, because that is some of Julia's passion, is program coordination, and so she's really boosted what we do here with that. And of course, volunteering. So because I sit on other nonprofit boards, we collaborate with these. I am very intentional about telling them how we want to work with them. We want to be able to fill whatever void is, especially for recovery, for our people that are needing services. And I'm very grateful. I go in with the attitude of gratitude to everything, and I make sure I tell them what I'm grateful for in their work. Be bold in talking to elected officials. We hear it all the time for our beloved Jeff Breedlove. He is the one who has really helped me in that area, because in the beginning I was like, I don't think I can do that. I don't know if I can do that. And he really broke it down for me, which is, once again, asking for help. You know, I remember being so scared in the beginning, and now we have, here in Statesboro, we have a beautiful working relationship with our senator and our House of Representatives. And we have just fostered one with our county commissioner chair, and that was a big deal too. So it's slowly growing, but man, just do it. Just do it. They're going to be grateful that you did it. Stand firm in your mission statement. And if your mission statement is not like what y'all do, or if it is not really matching the services that y'all see that you're given, we had to change ours when I first got in here. It was a very long ongoing sentence that it just didn't flow. You know, it just didn't fit us. And we're probably gonna be changing it again soon. But if we do, we need to change it with our team, with our board members. It don't just need to be some task we take on by ourselves. Our goal was to get it shortened, but be powerful and effective. And we've done it a little bit, but there's still a little more tweaking. And that's okay, right? Everything ain't got to be perfect all the time. We can continue to grow and learn and reach out for help. And it's important to build on our board members' relationships in the community. That is something that we have leaned on here. When our board was picked, it was people that had relationships all over the community, and it was apparent. We asked them to make warm introductions in some kind of a community event. We'll meet them there, and they'll shuffle us through the crowd, and we'll get to meet them. And it always brings up story sharing, just like what I love about the Georgia Recovers Project. It always brings up stories. And our community has loved telling us stories that they've not been able to safely talk about. And it's very apparent, because they want to have them like in secret, or they want to come over and have a one-on-one, maybe like on their lunch break or something. And it gives us a footing in the door to really help that person see that stigma is real and how it looks like right now talking about it. So that goes back to being part of the Chamber of Commerce through projects with them. Next slide. So we were there's examples of ecosystems that we have here, and I just wanted to put some of them out because this is a thing that I didn't realize we were doing so much of until, like our programmatic report that we send into the state, it has a part for community collaboration, and over the 2 years, it has just really grown, and that's what really made me see that we are partnering well with our community because it's all listed out there. But there's like little groups of them that we share the same peers. They may be like the first one is our mission. Esther's Place is a women's and single moms and widows. It's to help make their life a little easier, like making dinner for the family and they just swinging by and going to get it on their way home, or they have a widow to widow meeting. And then our local CSB and some treatment, and then our RCO is always the common thing at the end. And some of our people are all enwrapped in that first one. Like they use all of us as services for their life to progressively get better. The second one is the accountability courts and treatment, RCO meetings, social events, and I'm sure that's probably a common one for a lot of us. And finding, sometimes it's hard to get in contact with the main person in charge, and really knowing like who their secretary is or who takes notes is a great way to like get in there and make some things happen. And we had a really big breakthrough when our accountability courts allowed for the RCO meetings to count as a signed off meeting for their meetings they have to attend. So that meant that like our devotions, our AA, our NA, our Al-Anon, all recovery, that was my baby at the time, and it started counting as a signed meeting. And that really broke the barrier for us with the accountability court. They started inviting us to the courts and to speak and stuff like that. So after those things happened, it was much easier for them to like extend maybe their curfew to come to some of our social events, because the judge started trusting us and now we were true to our word. So, that just took some time and effort. The third one has been a new one for us, and it is Connection Church, college students, which are mostly Georgia Southern students, some volunteers in our community, and then mental health conversations surrounded by the RCO. So what happened is our youth pastor at Connection Church wanted to learn more about mental health because he sees his youth congregation struggling with it. And I was so grateful that he even wanted to have this conversation with us. And he came here and he wanted some information about what he could give them after they were talking about it. And he didn't even realize it, but he's doing it for the month of September, and I was able to tell him that's recovery month. So that was another seed planted, And now he tells the students, about our place. I gave him a list of resources of other places that we trust here in town. And they also have volunteer opportunities with us at FGR now. So that broke a lot of barrier in the church world when it comes to recovery here in Statesboro. The next one is our college, the university. Their Center for Addiction Recovery, the College of Public Health there, grant. It's also involved the Southeast Health District, the Department of Public Health. And we are hoping for more data tracking, because that is something that we need to grow in as an organization at Freedom Through Recovery. And they are going to help us with that. And I'm so grateful. And so they're learning about the RCO network which is a whole beast by itself, right? They are learning about how we can use these grants to tap in to the network of RCOs that are already in place. And so we're working on a grant now, which we'll be able to interview some other people at RCOs if it does get funded. And it's going to show us better about how to track data. That is a whole ecosystem too, because the Center for Addiction Recovery is a safe place for college students to go that are in recovery and hang out. And so the RCO network, man, what can I say? We have a need. It's kind of like see a need, feel a need. And if I have someone that needs to go to treatment, all I have to do is like reach out to some people in the network, and usually somebody has a lead and a phone number of which they could call and see if there's treatment, because in Statesboro, there's only so much. There's really not too much around it. And I depend on the RCO network for that. And we've built some good collaborations through that too. And then I've already told y'all about Camilla Foundation with the Art Center. We are bringing in DFACs on that. Families with DFACs cases are getting first pick. And man, just being able to just show them that we care, you know, and that'll include the RCOs also. And we can go to the next slide. And this is what I've learned. And it is to take responsibility for the organization. As a director, there is no finger pointing. We don't blame. I have been trusted to steward our organization well with integrity, and there's nothing that gives me more integrity than owning something, you know, that maybe is difficult in the moment. We all have a part to play. It's all about how we talk to our team. It's not about raining down fear on the team. It is about building them up with love. This is the integrity that teammates need to see. They need to see me doing those things to know that is how they're supposed to act too. You know, it doesn't have to be said when they see it so much. And we want them to build on it. So it's super important, especially to be like a good steward of the money that's been entrusted to us. If someone donates something for someone a coat, you know, go buy that coat for that person. It doesn't need to go anywhere else. Like there never needs to be any sketchy when it comes to money. The second one is asking questions. And I tell this to my 7-year-old daughter all the time, and I take this in myself, to be scared and do it anyway. If there is no one asking questions, don't worry about it. If you have a question, ask it. I can promise you there's probably somebody else in the room thinking of that question, but they just haven't raised their hand to ask it yet. I was in a training where he would always say, who's going to be brave and go first? And that always gave me motivation to just go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. I advocate for myself in our organization when I ask questions. Humility is knowing that we do not know everything. All I have is literally my experience, the ARSC, RCO service definition, and a contract. I told y'all about that earlier. So I need to hear how other people are doing it. There are always people that have been around a little longer, that are more, they have a lot of community buy-in. That's the people I want to learn from, right? And that is the people who I call. The third one is I will make mistakes, and I will not continually beat myself up about that. That is something I have learned over time, and I don't always do that perfectly. I can sit on something for a day, but at the end of the day, I need to go ahead and turn it over. There will be plenty of mistakes to be had, and all they are is learning opportunities. Just go back to number one, take responsibility for it, remain teachable in it. For me, I have to shut my mouth and just listen. so I don't spew out something that I got to make amends for, you know. It's all about having recovery at the center of our heart, you know. And the last one is my work here at Freedom Through Recovery. It reflects my own personal recovery. That is always at the end of the day, like everything that we do here at the RCO is built on our own personal recovery. And that's why I wanted to share about that in the beginning, is because we got to know what our own recovery looks like. We got to be true to our recovery. We got to be authentic. And when we do, our work will have no other choice but to reflect that, you know. This year I have learned how to pull the reins back a little bit on my life, and to really like sit in the moment and see like who is inspiring me, and to be intentional about going to spend time with them. And that is something that's new for me. And I'm going to continue to do that because it's been very fruitful already, and I've only done it a few times. So I think that's the end of our slides. And yes, it is. I'm very honored to share my lived experience with y'all, and I hope it helps.
Thank you so much, Catherine. It's always a pleasure to, you know, get some gems from you. I hope this webinar was also super informative to our attendees. So I do want to move forward to our Q&A portion. So we did get a few questions in the Q&A. So our first question says, any tips for an aspiring mobile RCO and reaching out to other RCOs for sponsorship? Ooh. And so this is Ty from Stand Up for Recovery. And so just a little background, it says, I run Stand Up for Recovery, which produces sober/recovery friendly comedy shows, and working to get Narcan into comedy clubs. We are working towards and also running workshops and sober open mics as well. Thanks. So any tips you want to share, Catherine?
Well, listen, having fun in recovery is amazing. I love laughter, and pretty much everyone that I know in recovery or like seeking recovery, that is like an icebreaker, right? It's the laughter. I am very inspired by mobile RCO, just that word, just those words, period. With sponsorship, I think like if it were here in my community, if you were coming here, I would absolutely number one sponsor that. And what we did with the Chamber of Commerce when we got the van, there was like these little details of like cute little sayings, like fueled by is on the back of the van. It's huge, and it's like fueled by whoever, and they gave the larger sponsorship. So what would be really cool is to see sponsorship surrounded by cute little comments of who, I don't really know that culture, but I'm sure you have some ideas of what that could look like. And I would reach out to, especially like the treatment centers in town. We have the art center here that's huge on comedy anyway. I don't really know. Maybe some coffee shops in town. Anybody who benefits from a comedy show. Some artists maybe that come through, or that you could get a band. I don't know if you have a band that would do music like throughout the show. But if I promise you, if you go have authentic conversations with people in the community, I would already hook up to the RCO that's there, and they can tell you, they can make that warm introduction, or they could partner with you and have them, y'all rent out a venue together, or maybe if their RCO is big enough. I think that's to tap into that RCO that's already been there doing the work, to see like who empowers them the most. I'm proud of you.
Thank you so much for that perspective, Catherine. I love how you're like integrating, the community and also highlighting that it's going to take more than one person or one organization. So being able to connect with organizations and have those warm handoffs. So thank you so much. So our next question is from George, and it says, if you were starting over or opening a new RCO, what is one challenge or question that you would address sooner rather than later?
Oh, let's see. I would know that what we need to do first is have all the financial controls put in place for the outside accountant. We would need to secure an accountant outside of that for audit, because the audit will be done at the end of the year. And job responsibilities that people sign when they come on. And make sure you have a business license. When I got into my spot, it had been expired for 2 years, and that could have easily shut us down, Asking questions. Make sure I'm asking questions, like all the questions. Read through the contract. Don't just blaze through it. I mean, like, there's little tiny details that the whole team needs to know. Like, if you can do it as a team and be even better, everyone already knows like what's expected. And to stay positive. Sign the gratitude.
Thank you so much. So we have a few more questions coming in the Q&A. So our next one is from Reginald. It says, we are in the process of starting a recovery ministry at my church. Any suggestions on how to start? And do you know any resources available for our congregation?
I do not have that kind of information, but Miss, I don't know if I should say your name, but there is a lady already doing that kind of work that we could reach out to. I don't know if I should give her name or not. I mean, she is a recovery warrior, and she does a lot of stuff with the church. I would be happy to give her his information though, because we're kind of starting that ourselves, right? It's really cool that it's starting, because recovery needs to be talked about, and our mental health needs to be talked about in the church. Like, it ain't because we ain't praying hard enough and all those things. That sometimes people are told, and for a church to even look at that inspires me so much, because so many people can be getting a lot of help at church, because it's usually a person's first place to think of, especially in rural areas. And Reginald, I don't know where you're located, but I would love to connect you to the lady that I'm talking about.
Thank you so much for that, Catherine. And if it's really helpful, I think it'll be helpful if you can put your email in the chat. And so if anyone wants to reach you for any questions, they'll be able to do so. And then we can also do that in our follow-up email that will go out as well. And so we have another question in the Q&A chat coming from Michael. And it says, how do you manage how do you manage your time doing all of this amazing work? And ... we love Tootle.
Big Mike, I know who that is. I love you. Oh, I love all of y'all so much. I'm just gonna be honest with y'all. I've had to go to a whole nother organization. I mean, a whole nother 12-step meeting called Al-Anon to keep Catherine in check. It has taught me how to learn how to not give myself away, how to give my best shift. It really has taught me how to take care of myself. And so that's really the key, is like, how are we taking care of ourselves? Do we feel like we're getting tired? Am I yawning a lot? Am I hungry? Like, have I spent time with my family? Are my cats getting some attention? I know, let me tell y'all something. I know when I've been unmanageable, when I wake up and my phone hasn't been charged. It tells me automatically. I know that's a sign for Catherine that I didn't charge my phone the night before, and I was like wrapped up in moments all day or something for me not to get my phone charged. Because it's crucial to have your phone during the middle of the day these days. And like, take time to learn yourself and figure out your little telltale signs of maybe when we're getting overwhelmed and we need some space. Take a mental health day, yo. That's, man, Mike, that's why, which I know we're freestanding RCA, but we went back to staggering people being here 4 days out of the week so we can have some time to like, whew, rest and chill. But we actually got to do it on that day, you know, that we have off. We can't be like running and committing all kind of other things. We need to be chilling out and taking care of ourselves. And one more thing. Delegating it to an awesome team. Like, use your teammates because they're there and they want to be empowered by this work. That's why it's important to find their passions too, so they show up to work on time. They're excited about doing what they have lined up for the day. Yeah, it's like all connected.
Thank you so much, Catherine. And we have time for a few more questions. So our next question is, could you share some inspiring success stories of community organizations that have made a significant impact in fostering recovery?
I have one that always stands out for me. And it was a lady she had been in our community for a long time, and she had a pattern, and it would be, she would do wonderful for a while. She'd be really plugged into the community, doing her meetings, volunteering, and something would happen with her family, and it's important to be like trauma informed, so we have the right language to use of what happened. And something would happen with her family because it was a chaotic family life, and she would use a substance, and it would just like kick up all the mental health, and that would usually lead up to her losing her car, her apartment, and having to start all over and like crisis stabilization. So when we really, 2 years ago, when we really started partnering with all these different organizations, the ecosystem, she's the reason why I was even thinking about this ecosystem. Because with Esther's Place, the one for women, this peer had learned about Esther's Place through us, and she would go there and they do haircuts and they like want to make women feel beautiful again on the outside. And she would do that, and she started learning about them and really plugging in there too. And then another organization in town was giving her the computer skills, and it was focused on ladies restarting too. And so between all three of these organizations and us all seeing her, she signed a piece of paper that we could all talk to each other about how she's doing and stuff, and release the information. That's the name of it. And after she had a hard thing happen with her family, she used, but she went straight to Esther's Place, and she just sat in the parking lot in her car with her doors locked, because she would have a lot of paranoia come up too when that happened. And they finally saw her sitting out there, and they're like, "Hey, what's happened? Like, what's going on?" And she gave them the rundown, and they're like, "Have you went to see Catherine yet at Freedom Through Recovery?" And she's like, "No, I haven't even thought about that, and I'm kind of scared to drive anywhere." And they brought her down here, and like she chilled in my office, and she had a lot of guilt and shame about making that decision. And of course, being trauma informed, we were just able to ask her what happened and what she would like to do. Like, what is her goal now? And she just didn't want to lose everything she had, right? So she called and got crisis stabilization in that moment instead of losing everything. And y'all, that's been over a year ago. She went to long term. She's never been to a treatment center before like that. She went across Georgia to a long term program, and she has started her life over in Alabama. Like, she is loving life over there, and that was only because we had that, I call it like a net kind of built underneath her. So when she did fall, it's like, okay, well, what would you like to do now? And just hearing her say she didn't want to lose everything, she already knew the next thing to do. And so that's my favorite story.
Thank you so much for sharing, Catherine. We do have a few more questions that's popping up in the chat.
Okay.
And so I want to be able to get as many answered as we can. So starting off with Ty again. So are there challenges for RCOs that want to encompass both substance use disorder and like mental health resources and services?
I am sure there are challenges. Anything mental health realm, even more challenging from my experience to help people with. And then stacking on substance use is hard. It's just hard. It's hard work. But because we don't have to do nothing alone, you know, we get our RCOs, I think later, didn't you say in Virginia? So here, you know, we get trained by the Georgia Council for Recovery on our certification, which is the CARE, Certified Addiction Recovery Empowerment Specialist. Once we have that CARE, then we can get specifically trained in other things. And, you know, it would be important to have a teammate that has been through a dual diagnosis. So after they get their CARE, then they can go over to another state organization called the Georgia Mental Health Consumer Network, and they can get their certification in mental health, which can add on to the original CARES. You can kind of stack your certifications, and what it does is gives us tools to do peer support in the substance use and mental health realm underneath the RCA. Because, I mean, being realistic, when people come in, a lot of times it's both, because it's, you know, it's either I'm going to quiet down the mental health by substances, or I've been on substances so long, mine, now I have some mental health challenges that I still take my medication for. So it would definitely have to have like transparent conversations and find out who would be okay with sharing their experience out loud.
Yeah, thank you so much for that perspective. And there's so much intersection with mental health and also SUD. And so figuring out, you know, those resources and also different organizations like the Council for Recovery, Georgia Council for Recovery, that will help with that training. So last but not least, very quickly, can you speak a little more to what a community buy-in looks like for RCOs and any resources for helping create and clarify mission and vision statements?
Yeah, man. So on our, community buy-in, what that looks like for RCOs. We're really wanting to find who supports recovery, right, in our community. So how are we going to do that until we go out in the community and have these conversations about recovery? Not about addiction, but about recovery. Who believes in the concept of recovery? A new idea that I have had that I got from Department of Public Health, Ms. Amby, she has these little purple dots that she's putting up in Wayne, Brantley, and Ware counties in windows that say, it just gives the message in the community that I support recovery, or I know how to give out Narcan. And what I want to do here in Statesboro and Bullitt County is, you know, maybe have some kind of little FTR logo to go up in their window, or if they're not down with that, maybe something on their front desk, just to say we support recovery. And it takes, you know, kind of being bold to have those conversations, because, you know, but and then with the mission statement, what we've done with, you know, the Georgia Council a lot in all of our meetings is we sit people down and we throw out words of what recovery means to us, and then we pick out the common words and we kind of build a statement around that. And so I would do that with that's what I'm doing right now with my team, and then we're gonna run it by the board to make sure, you know, it ain't just us making that decision. And look at other people. You know, everybody's got it on their website. See.
Thank you so much, Catherine, and thank you so much for everybody that joined us today. I'm super excited about you just being here, being able to share what you did. Please complete our post-webinar survey. Leslie just dropped it in the chat. We really appreciate your feedback. And again, thank you so much, Catherine. Thank you so much, Sarita and Tori, for your services. And I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye.